Hi there, everybody. I'm Mairead Smialek, and today I'm here with Ryan Stulman, and we're talking about 1031 exchanges. Thanks so much, Ryan, for being with us.
Hi, Murray. I appreciate you having me here today. It's a great time to opportunity to speak with you and kind of talk about 1031 exchanges.
So, for those people that don't know what a 1031 is, what is it exactly?
Yeah, so a 1031 exchange, it allows clients and real estate investors who have investment property or property used in a trade or business, i.e. commercial property, to sell that property. They do a 1031 exchange and they can defer their capital gains taxes as long as they reinvest those proceeds into another like-kind replacement property. So it's a great tool for investors to have.
Very great tool. And I know there's some other benefits that we briefly talked about. So what are those?
Yeah, so some of the benefits of the 1031, again, allows people to diversify their real estate portfolio. That's one of the biggest benefits with it. So they can actually sell something such as a single-family home rental and purchase commercial property. They can sell commercial property and buy vacant land. As long as the intent and the use is for investment or to be used in a trade or business, it satisfies a rule, the like-kind rule that we have with 1031 exchanges. And again, too, it also allows people to diversify geographically. So not only asset class, but geographically, where they can sell possibly here in Florida and buy in Texas, or they could sell up in New York and buy in North Carolina. So it allows them to really diversify that portfolio. Then one of the final big benefits of it is it's kind of used in estate planning. So one of the things that investors can do is they can do their 1031 over the course of their lifetime, and eventually when they do pass, their heirs or that estate would get that stepped up in basis, pretty much, so eliminating all the capital gains tax that could have been incurred over the course of that deferral period.
That's excellent, for families and planning purposes. I'm glad you pointed out the distinction between being able to sell, a single family home and buying commercial, because I feel like that's that myth that's out there, and it's important. It comes up all the time. People seem to believe that. So let's talk about the not fun topic, the rules. What are the rules for 1031s?
Yeah, so there are some rules and guidelines for 1031. So one of the big things is the property you're selling and the property you're purchasing must be held for investment or be used in a trade or business. So vacation homes and second homes, depending on their usage, and there's certain safe harbor guidelines that would have to be looked at, don't qualify, as well as your primary residence. Those do not qualify for 1031 exchange treatment there. So the second thing is to always enter into an exchange agreement and have a qualified intermediary such as myself to help facilitate that 1031. Because
you know your stuff.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. One of the big rules with the 1031 is that the exchanger, that taxpayer, can't have receipt or constructive receipt of funds. And that's where we would come in as the qualified intermediary to hold those funds on their behalf while they perform that 1031 exchange. Also within it, there's some guidelines, timelines, timeframes with that. From the sale of that first property, they then have 45 days to identify a replacement property or properties. And there's a couple identification rules that we can discuss there. And then they would have 180 days all from the sale to close on one or more of those identified replacement properties. Within that 45-day identification period, there's a couple rules that the IRS requires to be set. And so you have your 3-property rule, where they can identify up to 3 properties regardless of value. We have the 200% rule. So if someone wants to identify, hey, Ryan, I want to identify 4 properties. So if they identify 4 or more properties, we then look at and say, okay, that's fine as long as you don't exceed 200% of the value that you sold. But then if they go over that 200% value, then we're going to look at a 95% rule, where then the IRS says, hey, you want to identify more than 200%, we're going to have you have to purchase 95% of the value of all properties identified. So in essence, you got to purchase everything in that. So those are the big rules. The time frames are pretty strict on that. There's no, just because it's on a weekend or a holiday, those don't change. So we always are looking at those time frames.
Yeah, and making sure you're calendaring them so you don't miss those essential.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's huge, especially the 45-day when, depending on the market and things are going. That 45-day goes
very quick. I just closed one, and you feel the pressure.
Right.
You absolutely feel the pressure.
And so we always say, start early. Start early in the process. There's nothing wrong with that. So if you know you're going to sell a property,
I agree with that.
You want to do it, just start early. Nothing changes from that.
So if you buy a property, you sell a property for $800 and you buy one for $500, is that all right? Can you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So
that's another myth that's out there.
It's a huge misconception that it's an all or nothing. So For a full deferral, you want to, in that example, if you sell for 800, you want to purchase for 800.
Yeah.
That's a full deferral. But people do trade down in value.
Yeah.
That 800 to 500 example, just know that you can trade down in value. You'll have a partial deferral,
Yep.
and whatever's not replaced in that regard would be taxable.
You want to talk to your accountant just to see
Yeah,
how that all
absolutely.
plays out.
Talk to
Yeah.
CPA, see what that tax consequence could be trading down in value. But it's perfectly okay. Some people rather have a partial deferral and still be able to defer something than nothing.
Nothing, right.
Yeah.
What's a reverse exchange? I feel like a lot of people out in the real estate community don't even know that exists.
Yeah,
so let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so in your standard exchange, people sell first and then they purchase the replacement property second. That's probably a good normal exchange that you'd see out there. But in a reverse exchange, an exchange can be structured where they actually purchase first before they sell their property. So in the reverse exchange, it's a little bit more of a complex setup and structure that has to occur with that because you can't have title to both properties at the same time.
Yeah.
So in that reverse exchange, it is a possibility out there. So depending on market conditions, whether it makes benefit, you find a property that you like, great, and you can't pass it up, and you need to purchase it first. That's possible, and that then allows you then that 180 days from the close of that purchase to try to sell your relinquished property in that regard. So it's a great tool, opposite way, from that end.
Yeah, and if somebody decided to do that, they would just get in touch with you right away so that they could really understand the nuances of it.
Correct.
And make sure that they're really following and staying on that.
Yeah, because especially with the nuances, there's other things that come into play in the reverse depending if lending's involved. Because one of the big things in the reverse exchange is you actually, because you don't have the sale proceeds yet, is you have to have those funds available
to be able to make the
purchase first.
Yeah.
And if lenders are involved, it become a little bit more complex on how that has to be structured in that regard. So
we can do it.
Yeah, we can handle it. We've handled plenty of them. So in my head, it's pretty simple. So,
yeah. And then the last thing, we'll go back to the rules. You buy the property, then what happens? What are the rules?
Yeah, so, again, the big thing is your intent is that the property you're selling at the time is an investment or used in a trade or business, and the property you're going to purchase is held for investment and used in a trade or business. If things change and the person's intent changes, we always say reach out to your CPA to kind of discuss what's happening in that course, so that you can determine if that's going to impact the exchange at all or what happens after the exchange or the usage of the property in that regard. So,
well, thank you so much. If anybody has any questions about 1031s, they can contact Ryan directly. You'll find his contact details below, and we'll see you on the next one.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Thank you.